Hello everyone, and thank you again for joining me in this new episode of the Twilight Zone. So today is my final episode for the Twilight Zone. I am really excited this time. Today's episode is, let me check. It's season 1, episode 22, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Now, this episode, like I explained on my first Twilight Zone video that I made, this episode was practically mentioned in every single list that I checked, and every time that it was mentioned, it was in the prominent places, like third or first place. So I have really high hopes for this episode. Today's snack is peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a little bit of juice. Robin is here. Hello, Robin. And Flash is here next to me. So, remember that I never see any kind of spoilers. I have no idea who's in this episode. I just discover every single one as they go. Remember that you can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done already, or you can also check my Instagram. So let's get this done. Ice cream. Was that a spaceship?
Too close for my money. Much too close.
Yeah. For that intensity?
Before the monsters came.
What monsters? Nothing works? Nothing electrical? No phones?
I had the soup on the stove and the stove just stopped working.
Even fire? Why did they do that close up? It's not good.
I'll take a run downtown. Maybe I can get it straightened out.
The car is not gonna work, obviously. Told you.
You better not.
Why not?
They don't want you to.
Who?
Them.
Them? What?
Whoever was in the thing that came over. I don't think they want us to leave here.
So he saw something?
It's always that way in every story I've ever read about a ship landing from
Oh.
outer space. You stop that kind of talk. Come on, let's go.
Sunspots. They raised Cain with radio reception all over the world.
People always try to find a logical explanation to everything.
Craziest thing you ever heard of. The kid tells the comic book plot and we stand here listening.
He's got a point.
4 people, a mother and a father and 2 kids who looked just like human, but they weren't.
Okay, the new neighbors are the new suspects.
Nothing seems to be working. Can't even get the car started.
What?
He got his car started.
I would be running back to the kitchen to see if I didn't leave the blender on.
He always was an oddball. Him and his whole family. Real oddball.
Oh.
What do you say we go ask him?
Now he's a suspect.
Now let's not be a mob.
Exactly.
Wait a minute now. Just keep your distance, all of you.
Especially now.
Okay. The general impression now holds that maybe there's a family that isn't what we think they are. Now, do you know anybody that might fit that description around here on Maple Street?
So they are actually taking what a child said. Wow.
That's supposed to incriminate me, huh?
If the car starts moving by itself, I'm gonna creep
Car
out.
starts and
Well, a couple of times I've come out on my porch and I've seen Les Goodman here in the wee hours of the morning, standing in his yard, just looking up at the sky. Just looking up at the sky as though he were waiting for something.
You're sick people, do you know that? You're sick people, all of you. And you don't even know what you're
You're not scoring points, man.
You're letting something begin here that's a nightmare.
Well, yeah. This is kind of interesting. And people looking at them subtle.
Any guy who'd spend his time looking up at the sky early in the morning, there's something that's wrong with that kind of a person. Something that ain't legitimate.
Look, Les,
I've already explained to you people.
But this guy seems to be the most reasonable one. Why is he acting like that?
You sound pretty anxious to have that happen, Steve.
Why did you have to speak like that?
Do I wife's been doing a little talking, Steve. About some of the odd things you've been doing.
Well, go ahead, Don.
Oh my goodness, they're gonna end up tearing each other apart.
Hold on. Let's pick out every idiosyncrasy
Exactly,
of every man,
you're
woman,
never
child
gonna
on this whole
finish.
street. And then we might as well set up some kind of a kangaroo court.
A kangaroo court? What is that?
Well, there's no need getting so upset,
But
Steve.
if
It's
somebody
just a-
doesn't stop it from right now, it could get a lot worse.
About how there's been plenty of nights you spend hours down in your basement working on some kind of radio or something. Well, none of us have ever seen that radio.
Oh, and they're just starting to throw shade on each other.
Go ahead, Steve.
That guy looks troubled.
I talked to monsters from outer space. In what look like meteors.
Yeah, they're taking this too far.
The only thing that's gonna happen is that we're
Yeah.
gonna eat each other up alive.
I mean, he might sound aggressive, but he's absolutely making sense. What's that? Child? The monster. Oh my god, they're gonna kill him!
The monster.
My goodness, no! Why? Oh no, it's the poor man! He went out to check on the lines! No! Oh my god. This is horrible!
Pete Van Horn.
Idiots!
Well, he was just going over to the next block to see if the
Yeah?
power was on.
Charlie, you killed him. He's dead.
I told you this guy was trouble.
Charlie, the lights just went on in your house.
You're so quick to kill, Charlie. And so quick to tell us who we had to look out for. Well, maybe you had to kill. Maybe Pete there was trying to tell us something. Maybe Pete learned something and came back to tell us who it was amongst us.
Oh man, everyone looking for a twist.
No, I didn't know the lights on, I swear.
So whoever gets this guy is gonna get line on the phone. Or a working phone. This guy's gonna end up killing himself. Well, now you see who the monsters are.
I know who it is. I know who the monster is.
All right, Charlie, let's hear it.
It's a kid. It's Tommy. He's the one.
Oh, that's not true.
God, a much more horrible monster.
It was this kid who knew what was going to happen. He was the one who knew.
Oh
How did he know?
no!
How could he have known?
Okay, they need to stop.
What's the matter with you people now?
Yeah,
Not him. You're right, it's him.
everyone's getting lights. They took the hammer from a dead body. Oh, no! Everyone's going insane.
Their world is full of Maple Streets. And we'll go from one to the other and let them destroy themselves.
That these things cannot be confined to the
Oh my
Twilight.
god, this is even worse. Okay, this episode was kind of disturbing, I have to admit. Probably there were famous actors here. I couldn't recognize anybody. Man, this entire episode, there's only one cut in between the times. Like, it started being during the daylight, and then there's just this very quick change into the nighttime, and then from then all the episode goes in real time basically. The part that I really feel too far stretched is that people actually are paying attention to what a child is telling, and in all honesty, what the child is telling is incredible, you know. It's unbelievable. So this is the part that kind of makes a little more noise than everything else. However, the way that people are reacting, suspicions arise at a single thing that people can think of. The last words that are spoken in this episode are about a scapegoat and our prejudices, okay? So yeah, the scapegoat in this case was the neighbor that went to check the power lines and end up dead. people is willing to throw anybody under the bus, as you know, just to save their own skin. And this is Charlie's case, that he did not hesitate, or at least he didn't have any problem throwing the boy so that all the people will look at him, and he didn't have to think of some special reason. Nobody had to ask, why would you say that he is the monster, because everyone heard him speaking about how monsters work. We all have our imagination, so obviously when they start speaking about monsters from outer space or something, you expect like real monsters, or the kind of version we have of monsters. Ever since I read the title, I felt that this was about, you know, ordinary human beings being actual monsters, and I wasn't really that far off. One of the things that really kind of stays with me is that most of these episodes only happen in a Twilight Zone frame, okay? For example, the Eye of the Beholder is in this world where everyone is ugly for our standards. The Invaders is in an Earth, but like a giant Earth. So these fit in a specific area of the Twilight Zone. But the last words here are that this not only can happen in the Twilight Zone. I see that this episode is a real criticism to human nature. I don't know if this is human nature, but this is definitely a very low point in humankind. Like being suspicious of each other, that you have absolutely no reason to, you know, stop trusting your neighbor, and suddenly because some ridiculous idea, everyone starts going into panic mode, and then you get an angry mob willing to just, you know, kill or hurt or whatever to anyone that doesn't fit what we would call our standards. We see the benefit of someone having actually a service, like in the first case with Lars. He actually has Lance, the first guy, the guy whose car was actually working. His car's working, so the fact that you have something better makes you someone unlikable, or makes you suspicious. And then the other guy gets electricity, and now everyone turns against this guy. So we see that if somebody else is doing fine, we start being suspicious instead of, oh, good thing you actually do have a car. Maybe you can help us, all of us, getting downtown and see what is happening. No, instead of doing that, they decide to go against him. The other guy has electricity, and instead of going like, oh, you know what, we should go into your house and turn on the television or the radio to see if we hear something, or you can use your radio to make contact outside. No, they decide to go against him. So this is human in its worst case. One of the things that is also kind of important to point out is that Serling calls this human nature, this kind of monster side of us, a weapon. In this world, in this Twilight Zone, there are monsters, or there are another species from outer space that want to conquer us, okay, in this universe. So they are using our shitty nature against us as a weapon. They don't need to use nuclear power, they don't need to use biotech or anything. It's just our very own nature using our own psychology against us as our weapon. And this is kind of scary, because it's true. I mean, look what happened just on our social networks because of the Will Smith and Chris Rock thing. Everyone started fighting each other to a ridiculous extent. I understand the kind of criticism that is being made here, because at least from where I live, we only see the union of our people when we have a disgrace. And this is something really difficult to accept, that this is the only moment that we need to go through this grace in order to see the best of humankind. So I really enjoyed this episode, even though Robin is snoring again, but I'll forgive her. Remember that I am still counting your votes for the next 10 episodes of The Twilight Zone from the 60s that I will watch. Remember, this will be the viewers list. This was the experts list, and now I want your thoughts. So please Don't forget to leave in the comments box below your ideas for the next episodes, whatever that you remember, those episodes that really made you scared or that really were interesting for you. Let me know so that I can count it on my votes. Thank you again for joining me in this episode, and I'll see you in the next season. Now, God bless and bye-bye. Now you wake up.